So here we are today at beautiful Green Springs near the city of Deltona, Florida, which is a rather uncreative name. Like, oh, it's halfway between Daytona and DeLand. Let's call it Deltona. But yeah, Florida is undermined with thousands and thousands of caves and tunnel systems that flow all this fresh water around and causes us to have the thickest concentration of springs on Earth, actually. And this is a sulfur spring. The Native Americans said it has healing properties, but now they've, turned it into a park, and they are not allowing swimming here, but usually kids climb this tree and jump in. I mean, the tree just kind of screams, "Climb me." So does that one over there. But yes, this is one of my favorite places to come to. There's a lot of orchids here, a lot of diversity of epiphytic plants, which I'm going to show you today. But yeah, beautiful aquamarine water. Green Springs. Come check it out. And here's a real nice area to show you a good example of a heavily invasive epiphytic plant. You can see it growing all the way up the trees here and all the way down the little stream, climbing up over everything. This is Syngonium podophyllum. This is a very popular houseplant that has escaped horticulture and is now in a lot of places in Florida. And it starts off looking like this when you see it at ground level. Kind of your basic little aroid leaf. But then once it finds something to climb, it starts doing this tri-lobed leaf pattern. And a lot of aroids will do that. They'll start off a different leaf morphology when they're young, and then once they find something to climb, they'll change their leaves altogether. And sorry if the video is all jerky. I'm trying to wrangle this fool while I'm taking a video too. But yeah, Syngonium podophyllum. Someone probably planted it in their yard around here because they thought it was cute, and now it's escaped. And I've seen this a lot of different places in South Florida, usually the wetter, more protected areas, like around lakes and rivers and such, in the Central Florida areas where you'll find it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely invasive. I mean, it's going all the way up the trees here, choking out native stuff. But it definitely gives the area a very tropical, almost South America looking look, because that's where this plant's native to, I believe. I think. Could be wrong. Syngoniums might be Asian. But yeah, Syngonium podophyllum. Pretty, but invasive. Now, even though this place is overrun with invasive plants, I always like to come here just because it's just so lush. The spring just allows for a little microclimate to happen. I mean, you got the little flowing creek down here and a whole mashup of invasives. This is one you kind of see everywhere. It's colloquially called the elephant ear, but it's Colocasia esculenta. And I mean, they can get enormous. I'm talking, 4 or 5 foot leaf. Closer to the water they are, the bigger they get. And this plant has tons of oxalic acid in it. I actually have one of these, or a little patch of them, growing in my yard. And this goofball always decides to chew on the plant when he gets close to it, and it lights his mouth up like he ate hot peppers or something, and he has to drink a bunch of milk and wines, and he never learns his lesson. So yeah. And you got your the Syngonium podophyllum. Yet again, every tree it hits, it just sets up that vine, and up it goes. Now we got another infamous invasive plant here, the air potato plant. The Latin name's skipping my mind at the moment, but this is a very, very bad invasive plant in Florida. But it's actually has a success story of an introduced species with it. There's a little species of weevil that was introduced to eat this plant, and it's actually doing a good job. One of the only success stories of introduced plants in Florida. Now, when you see the action of the weevil, like, it's not little holes like this, the whole leaf will look like a mosaic of holes, and that's the larvae of the beetle doing its work. But yeah, nice little, luscious little corner. Makes you feel like you're in South America or something. Even though a lot of this isn't supposed to be here. Here we got more of that air potato vine. I remember the name now. It's Dioscorea bulbifera. Yeah, an invasive, or a notorious Florida invasive. But the leaves are beautiful. But, you can see it just hits something and just vines up and up and up. But, thankfully they got that weevil around here taking care of it. Hopefully I can find a leaf that's been affected by that weevil's larvae so I can show you what I'm talking about. Alright, see what else we can find. There's not a plant right at this exact location I want to show you, even though there's all kinds of cool stuff growing around. Just a very nice, relaxing spot to hang out. I mean, you got the roots coming from the tree over there. This little trickling creek slash waterfall, which isn't coming from that spring I just showed you. There's a spring way back there deep in the woods somewhere that this is running from. But not too often where you get, these running water features like this here in Florida, since we have so much flat, boring ground. I mean, it's not anything you want to swim in or anything, Ticket likes to drink it. But yeah, really nice. I wish that the springs around here were nicer to visit. I mean, just due to overpopulation in Florida, they're always clogged up by fat, sunburnt, tow-headed Republicans and their offspring. So I try to not go to them. But maybe during the hot season, when everybody decides to go away, maybe we can do some videos there. But yeah, the Green Springs area is nice. Alright, let's see what else we can find. Alright, we stumbled upon a little makeshift grave site here for Shalto from 2018 to 2021. Apparently he was the best gecko in the world. Yeah, great place to be buried. Right next to the running water. Shalto. Alright, here we have another pretty impressive invasive plant. This huge fern here is Stenoclania tenafolia, or the giant vine fern. And they don't call it vine fern for nothing. I mean, once it hits something, it's almost kind of like that syngonium, which you see right there. But hits the tree, goes up, and then puts out those huge fronds. Now those fronds can get to be about 4 feet long sometimes. Now you can see on this tree, it's completely taken it over. Looks beautiful and prehistoric, but it's probably no good for the tree and invasive as well. Probably, yet again, something that escaped over from someone's yard that was growing it. I mean, it's gorgeous, but invasive. Yeah, Stenoclania tenuifolia. It's one big healthy looking fern. And they seem to like the wet areas too. I mean, it's sticking to this this creek area, which is still pretty dry. The true rainy season hasn't really started here in Florida yet. And yeah, more Syngonium podophyllum. Alright, here's me and Ticket again, kneeling down next to a path, getting tore up by mosquitoes. Botanizing in Florida is just kind of looks like you're trying to actively collect all tick and mosquito-borne illnesses. I probably got them all. I'm talking Zika, Lyme disease, all of it. I got it. But we got a terrestrial orchid here. It's not in bloom, so I can just show you the leaves. Sorry if that's boring, but you get what you get. Now, when I first saw this, it looks like a Sansevieria, or people call it a mother-in-law's tongue, which is a popular houseplant, but it's not. That's a native orchid. This is Oceoclades maculata. And down here, if you dig a little bit, you can actually see the new growth. And if you go down far enough, he's actually got little pseudo bulbs down there. And first time I actually figured out one of these was an orchid is I accidentally kicked one up and I saw the pseudo bulbs. But this technically isn't native. This is of African origin, but it's very successful here in Florida. It's kind of naturalized on its own, probably blew over in a hurricane. But yeah, I see this guy from the Keys all the way up to Central Florida and everywhere in between. Usually growing in leaf litter, but the further south you go, the more diverse its habitats become. Like I've seen it growing semi-epiphytically, seen it growing out of the sand and dunes by the beach. Yeah, this guy's all over the place. I'll have to come back and show you the flowers because they're pretty cute. And we have this this strange aeroid popping up everywhere. Not quite sure what it is. Most likely invasive. But there's the flower on it. Definitely tell it's an aeroid, the whole Spath and Spadex organization. Let's key that one out. That's pretty cool. Alright, gotta go catch my dog. Now here we got a pretty cool native flower. This is Erythrina herbacea, or that's locally known as the Cherokee bean. Not quite sure why. But yeah, that's a beautiful flower. And they have these terrible thorns all over them, which I'm actually getting spiked in the forehead right now by one that's above me. But, all for the love of botany. But yeah, gorgeous flower. You can see these popping up on the roadside. You usually only notice them when they're flowering, because the foliage isn't really, much to look at. It's just these little trilobed leaves. So it's in the Fabaceae family. Yeah, Erythrina herbacea, Cherokee bean. Beautiful. Actually, the hummingbirds love these. And here we have some more of that Oceoclades maculata. Here, last year's seed pods. And you can tell how this guy gets around so easily. Those little tiny microscopic dusty seeds just blow everywhere. And yet again, that Sansevieria looking foliage, or anyone else that knows their orchids, it also kind of looks like a Paphiopedilum. Common name for these is the monk orchid, because the flower kind of looks like a little hooded monk. But yeah, hopefully I'll see some of these in flower soon and give you something better to look at. I'm really glad I get to show you guys this. Accidentally broke him off of a dead branch. But here, if I can get it to focus, this is one of the strangest native orchids in all of Florida. This is Dendrophylax perectus, or they call it the jingle bell orchid. It's a completely leafless orchid. Here we go, and now you can see it. And again, in the genus Dendrophylax, which is closely related to the ghost orchid you find in Florida. And these guys make teeny tiny little flowers. They call them the jingle bell orchid. Now they call them the jingle bell orchid because, as you can see over here, they get these little seed pods on them. If I could ever get it to focus, see, I gotta put my hand behind it. Little seed pods look like little jingle bells. And same things with all orchids. These little seed pods crack open and you get millions of seeds. But such a strange orchid, and they just grow dangling on these dead cedar branches. Usually only on the dead branches. Yeah, weird one. Dendrophylax perectus. I'm gonna kind of put him up there how he likes to be. Very, very strange orchid. Now, most people that are into botany know this plant right here. This is a Tillandsia usnioides, or commonly known as Spanish moss. Everyone's always fascinated by it, but you know, living in Florida, you kind of get used to seeing it all the time. But a lot of people don't know that this is in the bromeliad family, Tillandsia, of course, and it's actually, it's a flowering plant. And there's the flower right there. Little tiny green bromeliad flower. And they're actually slightly scented too. Well, yeah, Tillandsia usnioides. Bromeliad family. Related to pineapples, if you can believe that. Let's see if we can get focused in there. Yep. Cute little thing. Yeah, most people would never think that Spanish moss is a flowering plant. Not a moss, it's a Tillandsia, it's bromeliad. And here we got another thing that fell out of the tree. I was really hoping to find some of these for you guys. Now, this is an orchid that's known as the jingle bell orchid. And that's the whole thing right there. That mass of roots, you can see the orchid roots, different from the dried Tillandsia on there. Yeah, and that's Dendrophylax perectus, and that's the whole plant. They call it the jingle bell orchid because it produces these little seed pods that look like little jingle bells, and the flowers are absolutely tiny. I mean, like a couple of millimeters. It's a little tiny little yellow thing. Now, most people see this mixed with the Spanish moss and they have no idea that it's an orchid. A very, very cryptic orchid. And it's actually related to the famous ghost orchid that lives in southwest Florida. That's Dendrophylax lindenii. Now, here's another one. And yeah, that's the whole plant. Just a little tangle of epiphytic roots, usually clutching on to dead branches, surprisingly. So you usually find them like underneath their host tree. They're laying all over the ground. Kind of a haphazard way to be an orchid, but I guess, it works for them because they're very, very common, very prevalent. Basically, anywhere I see cedar trees growing around bodies of water, you usually find these guys. Yeah, and you can see that root creeping all the way along that stem there. Very weird. Dendrophylax perectus. Jingle bell orchid. One of the strangest native orchids in Florida. I'm here right on the banks of the of Lake Monroe in Central Florida. Now this will all be underwater in about a month's time when we start getting heavy rain. But we got another cool native fern. This is Phlebodium aureum, or the golden polypod. Beautiful fern. And these guys can get pretty big. And I only ever find them growing on palm trees. Like they nestle their little rhizomes in there, and then out they come. Beautiful fern though, getting eaten alive by mosquitoes here. It's terrible. Something's been eating this one. But yeah, Phlebodium aureum, golden polypod. Very pretty native fern. Yet again, only ever find them growing on palm trees. Here we got another one of those Phlebodium aureum, golden polypod. Mosquitoes in my mouth. This guy's huge. Not ready to send out the spores yet. Yeah, and that's got to be, what, a 3-foot frond. I just love that ripply pattern. Very tropical look. And yet again, on a palm tree. Only ever growing out of palm boots. Gorgeous. You know, we're in a public park, as you can see, which just goes to show you don't really have to go really off the beaten path to see cool plants here in Florida. And we got one of my favorite native ferns over here. This is Vitaria laniata. They call it the shoestring fern. I always thought it looks like hair, personally. And look at those cute little the new leaves coming out, little curly cues, like little fiddleheads. Yeah, it doesn't really look like a fern at all to me, but it is. And yet again, you only find this guy growing on palm trees, mainly cabbage palm trees. And they're usually growing sympatrically with the Phlebodium aureum. Yeah, these palm trees are just loaded with epiphytes, all kinds of different mosses and lichens. The epiphyte diversity in Florida is just through the roof. And the further south you go, just the better it gets. Like in South Florida, there's mats of this that are, you know, it actually looks like a human head of hair coming off the tree. But yeah, Vitaria lanifolia, shoestring fern. Alright, here we got more of that Erythrina herbacea, the Cherokee bean. Those beautiful red flowers. This is kind of a more full plant, so I can show you more of it to get the focus there. Yeah, and you know, you could tell that's just a hummingbird magnet. Red tubular flowers. Definitely tell it's a Phlebacea. You got the weird trilobed leaves. And bean fruits. Little bean pods. And this guy's he's a spiky one. I mean, every now and then you get these recurved spines on the stems. and then they'll let you know you're doing something wrong. Yeah, beautiful native wildflower. And you'll just see these guys popping up on the side of the road, sometimes all random, and you only ever really notice them when they're in bloom, because that foliage isn't really much to look at. I mean, it's cool, you know, it's just another flavid, but the flower. Here we got another one. This guy's not all the way open yet. Gorgeous. Up, 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 up. I broke one. Up. Alright, I found a down piece of cedar tree that's got another one of these Dendrophylax porrectus on it, so I can give you more of like an up close and personal without being all shaky and in the wind. But yeah, that's an orchid, believe it or not. No leaves whatsoever, just this thin trailing root system. And I mean, it's not very big at all. That's the tip of my finger. And this is a large one. And you could see the old flower stalks coming off right here. These little wispy things. And yeah, the genus Dendrophylax is very interesting. Yeah, because no leaves at all. Leaves are just kind of like a waste for them. Why waste your time growing a leaf if you could just do all your photosynthesis and everything you need to do just by being roots? And here's like a smaller one. Looks like a piece of Spanish moss. But no, that's an epiphytic orchid. Kind of mind-blowing. It's like a cryptic orchid. Dendrophylax porrectus, jingle bell orchid. Super cool.